Good morning, Sir Maarten. What's up? What's cooking? Seems that they had a good weekend gone there. A lot of things going on. So we can talk a little bit about what went on this weekend and basically last week. But like I said, I'm focusing on the country packages. I did it last week. I did 4 of them. Today I'll do the other 4 and put them in a perspective of, does it jive with the reality of the country? What's written? Can they implement it? And if they can, how can they implement it? Those are the things that I'll be looking at today a little bit. But let me just start off with some notices, because I think it's very important that we still pay attention to what was said by the police in a press release last week, that the Juve that was held on the Saturday night after the Marshall Montana show into Sunday had some serious after effects with youngsters that were totally under the influence of alcohol and even drugs. And okay, the type of drugs wasn't clear, but again, we're having a problem that youngsters are abusing alcohol. So today, I will also have in this section, I will talk a little bit about the differences between alcohol and weed, marijuana, cannabis on the brain, so that we understand when we want to talk something, at least do the research to understand what you're talking about. Because too often when they see the youngsters, oh, look at that, look what weed doing to them. No, it's not weed. Maybe laced weed. Maybe some other kind of illicit drug, but not weed itself, not a plain strain of weed. It doesn't do those type of things. But we're going to talk about that just now. But again, the incidents that the police refer to are something that we have to look into very cautiously, because you cannot expect that the police are the caretakers of the youngsters. They have families, and those families will have to step up to the plate and say, okay, what do we do from here? Where do we go from here? Because what happened was unfortunate, and it needs to be looked at and rectified. Solutions have to be found for this type of behavior. Then we had the story about the whole police brutality and the investigation, etc. So justice had their hands full last week, but this week again. And we're going to address that just now, because things seem to have taken a spin for the bad with customs. And the question is, what's happening there now? Well, where does that go? So again, like I said, we got to be careful though, and I want to publicly say this, we got to be careful how we bash the police. Sure, police make mistakes. Everybody does, including me. We all make mistakes. But the negative bashing of the police isn't helping us in no form or fashion. If the police makes a mistake or breaks the law, there are procedures in place for that to take place. Highlighting people or putting people's name on Facebook really doesn't do nothing, because it's an uncollaborated story. And when you put uncollaborated stories on Facebook, you're creating sensation, and you do more damage to your country than you do good to your country. You believe you're exposing somebody, while in reality you might not be exposing somebody. You might be exposing somebody else that might have done something, but you blame the police for it. So we got to be cautious when we do these type of things. I did not like the report that I read in the newspaper, where the Integrity Chamber reported that it identified integrity risk at the Ministry of VSI. See, every time I think on Vromi, because that is such a mess right now, but that's for a different show on a different day. But I need to ask, when will the AOV be paid out to the recipients? What has happened since the 1st of January? This had to happen January 1st, 2023. Then they said May or June, then July. We're in August now. But I keep hearing the seniors saying they ain't get no money. And I'm trying to figure out, okay, were they not paid? Was this increase not paid yet? And if not, what's the issue this time around? Because every time we hear, it's something else. And my thing is this: we need seniors to receive a tax break. They look like they're back at it again, and they're looking for money because the budget is in serious problems. So who do they go after? The people that are registered. They're not looking at all the added on taxes that they were going to collect in the 2023 budget, which has clearly turned out to be a complete fiasco. So they're going to tax to death those that are there. They're going to go after people for all kind of craziness. assessments are going to be made that should not be made. In Curacao, the Minister of Finance said any assessment prior to 2018 will not be collected. So, what did the judge do? Got a tax office, decided they ain't worried that. The judge in Curacao wrote off $6.6 million in 2 verdicts and said the Minister of Justice said we're not doing it anymore, so we are not doing it anymore. I haven't heard a peep from this Minister of Finance other than we taxing. Now, it is what it is. So I hope that at least you pay out the AOV that the law says you got to pay out. Or you don't care about that either. Because that is unfortunate. But again, this helicopter view that they have and this strategic thinking that they have surely ain't panning out right now for this government and its coalition. I'm happy though that at least we putting out a bird platform in the pond so that some of these government officials can go there and hope to get a strategic thinking platform and a helicopter view of the pond so they can understand what water management means, because that too they have no clue of. Nevertheless, I hope, that's all I can say, I hope that before the minister is sent home, he grants the trench contract to the company that won it fair and square and try to stop all these games and this corruption, to try to call them in, to take it back from them and say you're going to retender to give it to friends and family because elections are due. Stop it. I'm going to talk about it publicly. I have seen enough documents rolling around to show that what's happening now is a blatant corruption deal. Nothing else. And we all keep standing by and saying, oh no, they ain't so. Oh no, they ain't so. Oh, the law changed. Oh, this administrative this. And oh, the ombudsman sending 3 systemic investigations. And Parliament keeps sweeping it under the rug because they have 8. Let's see how long that show will continue. Because last night I heard one of them in the Congress from upset with the intervention of God he was put in there to make sure that he saves St. Maarten. I have no clue what he means to save St. Maarten. Because what he has done is encouraged and supported corruption. That's what he has done. But we're going to get to that when the time is right. Because I'm done with all this chopping this year. Time to go down in the nitty-gritty. My closet open. I can open a lot of others. Guaranteed. From now to election, guaranteed. That is a fact. But again, it don't stop there now. It don't stop there, because yesterday there was a Congress of the up party. And let me congratulate them for having the Congress. Because at least now, nobody going to say the list illegal. They presented their list already with 16 candidates, I believe it was. So I'm happy for that. And I'm happy that they are in the race legally. So when we cut their backside, they can't say nothing. The race is on, and I am happy. And I wish all of them all the best. All of them. No exceptions. Let's talk about the truth between what happens to your brain with the use of alcohol versus marijuana, cannabis, weed. Let's talk about it today. Because there is a, listen, the legalization of marijuana, cannabis, is a $1 billion industry in the world of today. $1 billion. It will soon become a $1 trillion industry. And the discussion has now become, what's more dangerous to the brain of the human being? Is it alcohol or is it weed? Now, there has been a debate ongoing now for about a year, 2 years, 3 years about this phenomenon since it legalized. Because before that, weed was the worst thing out because nobody never did the research really on it. Now the University of Colorado has done some groundbreaking research, and there was insight given on the challenges of the conventional wisdom about the potential harms of substances like alcohol and weed. Alcohol has a devastating impact. The University of Colorado study led by A team of professionals analyzed the brain data of over 853 adult participants between the ages of 18 and 55. The results were striking, revealing that alcohol consumption, particularly over prolonged periods, was associated with significant effects on the brain structure. Long-term alcohol use showed a correlation clearly between the reduced gray matter volume and compromised white matter integrity, which means you start to forget, you start to shake, etc. So it affects your brain profoundly, and the consequences on your behavior and your overall brain function. Factual. Contrary to that, the marijuana showed that in contrast to common belief, there was no significant impact on the brain structure due to marijuana use. I am not talking about laced marijuana or flavored marijuana. I'm talking about the regular weed that can be grown on the island or is grown on the island. Let me put it so. Surprisingly, there were no structural alterations observed in nor the gray nor the white matter, and as a result of this cannabis consumption. Now, this finding challenges all those long-standing assumptions about the alleged detrimental effects of marijuana on brain health. Now, why do I bring this up today again? I have asked repeatedly that we do a tolerance policy on the usage of cannabis. I have asked that the laws be finalized so that we can legalize medicinal and regular cannabis. There was a study group to be put together over 2 years ago, because I am out of parliament now for 1 year and 9 months nearly. 8 months, sorry, 1 year and 8 months. And since then, the onlyest thing that happened was a request for a proposal that we all knew up front would not yield any results other than cutting a deal with somebody, because it would have excluded everybody in St. Maarten. Companies that have sent in their request were patented companies from out of Canada. No local companies were able to meet the criteria to compete. And the problem is, why do you create that playing field? I stated from day one that when we legalize cannabis, the production, the distribution, the retail would be for the people that are doing it now, so they can legalize their business and become real businessmen that can pay taxes on their services and their products, and they can become a millionaire hopefully someday, because it's $1 billion industry. Instead of that, what do we do here? We build jails. We put more money, $40 million, into building jails so we can continue locking up the people in St. Maarten. Because that's what we want. That's what this government promotes. Lock them up. Lock up all of them. Instead of building schools and getting the youngsters a proper education and fixing the economy so they could get a good paying job, instead of running this one pillar economy that does not, let me say it clear, does not produce high paying jobs. That's why 54% of this country has minimum wage. That's why 70% of this country is below the livable wage of 3,500 guilders. Ask yourself those questions when you talk to the NA or the UP. Ask them it. You know what they're going to tell you? Oh man, no worry about Campa, he know what he's talking about. Others are there blasting how good they know the economy. They don't know nothing. Because if they knew it, they would have changed it. You wouldn't build a marketplace now, when you know it's going to take 4 months and you're going to lick out the whole high season for all those vendors, because they have no place to go. You see, this is the problem I have with these times, and I get irritated and I get upset sometimes. And I express myself hard, because it is BS what they're doing to the people. Don't tell me you're working for them when you know you are not working for them. Remember, no, in America, this weed thing is big. It's not 1 or 2 people smoking it. In America, Approximately 78 million Americans have used marijuana at some point in time in their life. And about 35 million use it every month. That is 10% of their population. That would mean for St. Maarten, it's about 6,000 people using marijuana every month. We know it's more. Because among the youngsters and the middle class, a lot of marijuana is used. A lot. So let us not pretend it's not here. Let us not pretend we can make it an economical pillar. We have to stop that. We have to deal with realities. Times have changed. We must be willing to change. And I know change is the fear of the unknown. But you know what is the unknown today? This government. That's the unknown. You don't know if they're going right, left, or center. It is wherever the wind blows, they're blowing. That's what's happening. So wake up and smell the aroma, people. We got to be honest. And sometimes they're going to say, oh, Babangamba, what are you talking for? You had all your problems. And my problems will be solved and dealt with. Come September 4th, my problems will be solved and dealt with. I am very confident of that right now. But again, we need to understand that the study that was done by Boulder, Colorado, showed that alcohol possesses a far, far greater risk to brain health than marijuana. Yet, alcohol is legal and marijuana is illegal. And then you have to ask yourself, are we really living in this world? Or are we just holding on to some random beliefs that were passed on to us? Because we didn't do nothing. And we didn't use scientific data to back up the belief we had. It was a common belief. And I think as this world develops and as data becomes available to all of us, we need to embrace the data. You don't have to always go the direction the data tells you if there are compelling arguments not to do it. But I don't see the compelling arguments when the one pillar we have, which is the tourism pillar, where weed is a huge determinant for passengers on the ships. Because as they get off, they're asking where they can buy it. So let us not pretend. I need us to stop pretending. Because we pretend that we are holier than thou. But how much places we got here that got people making money the way they shouldn't be making it? I don't hear nobody talk about it. Why? And when the time was right, you raid one. But you won't raid the rest. Why? You see, this is the problem. This is the problem. When it's convenient, we do things. And then we try to justify them. But we're going to justify a lot today. Don't worry. You know, like I said, I hope that this government takes the legalization of weed seriously. Very, very seriously. And stop this pretentious behavior. And don't worry about building a jail to house more people. Why? Because the Dutch tell you, you got 122 people that should be in jail today. That's why. Why they don't tell you, let me help you build your economy. Let me help you build your police force. Let me help you build your schools. Or maybe they even did that actually. They made the money available through the Trust Fund and the World Bank, who systematically knew how to keep us in poverty with their stupid regulations, and we sort of wrong, jump up and open an office for them in our central bank, where they don't pay $1 tax. They're diplomats. They could do what they want, when they want, how they want. But when we ask about it for pre-clearance, oh no, you know how expensive that be? But the same stupidness we're doing. But at least pre-clearance would help our economy. World Banking will help our economy. At no time. At no time. They're spending the money right now that the trust fund gave them. And when that money done, we ain't getting no money from them in no projects, okay? Please. Because World Bank don't deal in developed countries. They don't. Don't fool yourself. Not them, not the IMF. Let's talk about our third quarter country packages. Let me take the first theme, the financial management. Now, the objective in the financial management was, let me see, onefold. Managing and bringing into line the financial management and the financial supervision based on the need for government to be in control. Now, you have to understand what they mean with in control. In this financial management, they're looking at the subsidies. A lot of subsidies are given by government. Schools, after school, organizations, whatever it may be. Now they want to do a study or look at existing studies to determine how the financial pillar of the organization can be reinforced. So let's say you're looking at the schools. How can we upgrade the financial pillars of the schools or the after schools or whatever to ensure that they handle their finances correct, policies are in place so that, they can be checked on the policies, the audit function, the position of the Council of Advice and the General Audit Chamber in all of these financial ramifications. Now, again, all of that is nice and well. But what are you really saying? Because at this point in time, there is a subsidy policy. There are positions that the Chamber, the Council of Advice takes, and the General Audit Chamber, when they audit, they look at certain things and they work them that way. What I need to understand, and maybe because I know they listen to me every Monday, maybe the government can explain how they're going to get its control with a so-called hands-off policy. Because with the subsidy, this is going to become a problem. If you're going to put policies in place that you can determine what happens in a school, then why do you need school boards? Why do you need them? If you want to set policies for contracts, then why not you make the contracts? Why you don't sign the contracts? Why with the school boards? You see, I'm trying to understand this because the bulk of this problem lies in the education subsidy. That's where we're going to have to really go, because that's where the money is. All the school boards, 1,000 teachers are being paid through subsidies. Then make them government workers. Make them civil servants. But you don't do that, because you allow loopholes for teachers versus a civil servant and getting a job. Once they're getting a contract through education board, government doesn't look at that. The education board handles all the permits and whatever needs to be residence, work permits and all those things. They handle all of that. They look at the qualifications of the teachers, not the government. All the government does is says, you have to be within this policy and you get money. Be it per student, be it per school, I don't know exactly how that is put together, but that's it. Once you want to get into that, there is no hands-off but a hands-on. That means politics, once again, will dictate how schools are run. And I don't think that's what we want. You need to have laws, and there are laws in place. So maybe they can explain this problem a little better and a little different, because I don't see it facing, when I look at reality, I don't see how this is going to work. But again, like I said, maybe they can give us a little better insight, because I believe at this point in time that's an unachievable task. It is nice to put it there, but it's unachievable. Same, then we go over to A2. Based on the existing or additional studies, whether and how the use of reliable statistical information and data for policy development and decision making can be reinforced will be determined based on proposals, decisions, and plan. Again, I fully support this once we set realistical goals and policy. Listen, this thing with pie in the sky nonsense got to stop. And data has always been our problem. We never had data. You can recall when the laws, the 3 famous laws now were being implemented and the ombudsman took it to courts. Basically, the government and the country, the government won that the laws can be introduced. Why? Because there was no data showing the poverty in the country. the effect those laws would have had on the people. While the people suffered severely, it couldn't be shown in the Constitutional Court. So yes, I support this, that we get the data. Let's set up a policy on what type of data we need to ensure we can make proper decisions instead of only doing studies which go into Draw 13. Based on existing and additional studies, it will be determined whether the subsidy policy, the implementation, and the existing subsidy relationship meet the requirements legally, the legitimacy, the effectiveness, and the efficiency. And on the basis of the outcomes, adjustments will be made to policy and or implementation, and unlawfully awarded subsidies will be reclaimed, taking account of the legal frameworks and legal principles if proportional. Now, this is a mouthful, because basically we are saying that we believe it's not fair, not transparent, nor are the results met that the subsidy is supposed to achieve. And as such, we will make the necessary adjustments and reclaim monies given to organizations as subsidy, because in one form or the other, it might have been unlawfully. Now, again, this is something where you're now going to open Pandora's box, because this is not as simple as it sounds. What results are you looking for at schools? Is it the passing rate? What is it exactly that the subsidy is tied to? So if 60% of the school fail, the school isn't good, we're going to shut it down? What are you saying? Or does the school have to pay back the money? What are you saying? You gave them subsidy, because remember, their subsidy is based, according to me, on the amount of students they have. I think that's where it's based on. And then you have components like electricity and those things that vary very often based on the fuel clause. So I don't know how that is taken up in the subsidy. But I can recall the fight they had with the schools about cutting the 10% or the 12.5% in subsidy when the laws came into effect. So again, what are you aiming at? Where are you wanting to go with this law? Because you can't blame the organizations for government's mistakes. And that's what you're saying here. Government gave the subsidy unlawfully. The organization can't go to the receivers and pick up the money. So what are you saying when you say these things? It seems as if you even want to accuse certain people of having committed a crime. I think that's far-fetched. I think that's really far-fetched. And you got to be careful when you copy-paste things that the Dutch tell you have to do. Here then comes, based on the existing or additional studies, it will be determined how the procurement function can be reinforced so that the government can perform the procurement of goods and services in the most efficient and effective manner possible. Centralization will be considered based on a proposal, decision-making and implementation will take place. So we talk about the tender legislation. Now, in 2018, the government introduced the procure to pay, because before that they didn't have it. I can tell you that because it's played a role in my court case. And there is no tender legislation. The government never had a outright tender legislation. This is what we do. No. Every ministry had a different tender legislation. What does that mean? Certain places you're using contracts, other places you're using a memo. But this is what it is. One place the governor signing, now another place the governor don't sign. The checks and balances are different. So a tender legislation has to be made for government. And government can state in their policy, their subsidy policy, that this is the tender legislation that you must use to buy goods. Now, when you start about centralizing the sales, government don't need to do that. Why does government need to go buy books and copybooks and pens and pencil? Let the school boards do their thing. You're doing as if a school board has one school alone. Most of the school boards have 3-4 schools under them. Let them come together. Let them do those things. Why does government have to micromanage? When you start talking this type of language, you're telling me that they're stealing, you don't trust them. That's all it is. Because you are now micromanaging the subsidy. Next thing you're going to say, you're going to make their own payrolls. You're going to give them the money no more. You're going to start paying them through the payroll system of government. Then make them government employees. It's either the chicken or the egg. It can't be both. You all are making up things here that make no sense. And then you talk as if you are doing this in the interest of the country. That's not true. You all are being set up to accept that you always have been thieves and you don't know what you're doing. These rules were not made by us. They were imposed upon us. And part of the government was so gullible that they just sign away to get some money. But as you go along, fix things when you see them wrong. Yes, I agree with the tender legislation. I wholeheartedly agree with it. But I cannot agree with centralization. Because you can't even take care of your damn car park. Alright? Government can't take care of their car park. Go and throw me 3/4 of the trucks back up. Cutting our wheels, ding our tires. Please, man. Don't make something that's bad already worse by stupidity. Because this is outright stupidity. We are a country, what now, 12 years? 13 years in October? And we still don't have a tender legislation. And remember, Parliament had instruct the Minister of Romy to bring one, which in all normal terms would have been for the whole country. A wishy-washy piece of paper reach. Come didn't approve it. Nobody looked at it. And in here now, suddenly you're talking about a tender legislation? Are you serious? Are you all serious? You listening to yourself? You all just read what others say? Come on, man. Please. Let's at least be honest. I know it's politics. I know you got to put a spin on a lot of things. And you're going to do that. And I don't have a problem because every time you do it, I'm going to expose it. Because I do know the civil sovereignty well. I have enough people in there that still talk to me on a daily basis. So guess what? Crap, I'm going to smoky pipe with that one. You all can go there and tell your story. I can tell mine. The other theme was the cost and the effectiveness in the public sector. And again, the public sector, we're talking about the government sector. In there, they wanted the increasing the efficiency of the public sector by reducing the public wage bill in line with the Caribbean average of 10% of the GDP. Increasing the quality and effectiveness, including the implementation capacity in the public sector. Those were the two objectives that they wanted to reach. The first question I have is, are we not in compliance at this point in time with the Caribbean average of 10% of our GDP? Because if my memory serves me well, we were at about 7 or 8% 2 years ago. We were there already. So if we were there already, why would we have to change it? Why do we have to take a measure to fix that? Unless maybe after the pandemic, it became so bad that we hired so many people into government that our wage bill has gone up, or that our GDP collapsed completely and that we are now over 10%. To my knowledge, none of the two happened, so maybe they can explain that a little better to the people. But again, we need to understand. They come and they state, for example, in B1, the countries are responsible for the continuity of vital processes, including under all circumstances, electricity, and here comes oil supply, internet and data services, drinking water supply, flight and aircraft handling, shipping handling, payment transactions, the emergency services and communications between emergency services and medical institutions. And while I wholeheartedly agree with all of that, The thing that is going to hurt this economy worst and will affect this responsibility of this country is the oil supply. We can't control that under no circumstances, but not one peep in this whole country package, and I've read it through and through now. Are we talking about renewable energy? Yeton came down here, Minister Yeton came down here, and the Prime Minister was all elated about signing an agreement to work towards the Sustainable Development Goals. But Madam Prime Minister, we need it now. We don't need it 5 years from now. We need it now. Which part you don't seem to understand? Your helicopter view don't see this? That you need to be dealing with renewable energy now. You got money sitting on the trust fund there. Please, ask the trust fund, ask the World Bank, ask Holland to review all this entrepreneurial thing that you are doing and take some of that money and have entrepreneurial projects done for people that want to put solar panels on their roof and batteries in their house, so we can reduce, listen to the word, reduce the supply of oil. What about a solar panel pack like Sabre and Stacia got already, Aruba and Curacao and Bonaire got already, except St. Maarten? What about wind energy that Aruba and Curacao have already, except St. Maarten? Now, mind you, Aruba, Curacao, and St. Maarten are the 3 autonomous countries in this kingdom besides the sovereign country of the Netherlands. But we have nothing to show on renewable energy. Absolutely nothing. And you see, Prime Minister, you're going to tell me, we only had 4 years. No, you did not. 2012, 2013, William Allen was the Prime Minister. 2015, 2017, William Allen was the Prime Minister. The NA was there. That's you. You can't say when William was there, you wasn't there. The party was there. That's how the buck gonna stop. Since we like to always talk about continuity in government, let's talk about it now too. Because it was under the then Prime Minister that we did start, and I'll give him credit for that. We did have the public tender, and we did have a winner rollout. And the UP government floored it in 2014-15. The then Prime Minister floored it. That thing came to a complete abrupt halt. Reasons not relevant right now. But it came to a halt. And we have done absolutely nothing since 2017. For the past 6 years, we have done absolutely nothing for renewable energy. Other than say, Christopher Emmanuel, this and Mancampo were doing this and this. What have you done? Zero. And you come here, you talk about your responsibilities. I ain't reading in here no place of responsibility about education. Schools ain't getting built. I ain't reading nothing about you got to give water, you got to give electricity. What about housing? You have seen how many people are homeless now? How many people living in the bush? Have you all noticed it? Oh no, you don't drive in those areas seemingly. But it is crazy when you see these type of things. Because, again, it is so cute when you look at those 5 things in there. Listen carefully, people. The only thing in here missing was justice. Read it carefully. Utilities is 1. Medical is 2. Ports of entry is 3. Communications is 4. All of them are in there. Financing and justice are not in there. If those 2 were in there, the whole country would have been in there. Because whomever controls those, controls your country. Well, we know who controls finances, and we know who controls justice already. You see where I'm going? Now, again, the second thing that I found interesting was based on a complete detailed review of the semi-public enterprises, so government-owned companies, airport, GB, TLM, etc., and government entities regarding the legitimacy of public shareholdership. In other words, do they serve the public interest and objectives. So does GB serve the public's interest and objectives? And if the objectives and interest was supply water and supply electricity at a consistent rate and a consistent method, you would want to say they're not doing a bad job, they can do a better job. When you ask about affordability, the answer is no. The people can't afford it. The economy doesn't lend itself for people to earn enough to afford the cost of water and light, if we like it or not. But you can't blame GB for that, because we are not doing renewable energy. We are doing the most expensive one, oil. That's more expensive than gas. We are doing oil, the most expensive one. So when you ask yourself this, you have to ask yourself, where are we going? Because in the effectiveness for them, they're saying, do they achieve the targets they set? If you're paying, sure they will. If you're a bad payer and you're not compliant, no, you will not. When you have monopolies like the airport and the harbor, you will meet the targets you set. If we said we should have 2 million cruise passengers here, did we meet the target? No, we did not. But if we said we want 1 million, 1.2 million, because that's what our infrastructure can carry, sure we did. And are we efficient? Yes, we are. Do we cause traffic jams? Yes, we do. But again, it is what standard you set. Because remember, in all of these industries, there are pros and cons. And that's the important part. But you see, the thing is this. The objective of this ruling is to reinforce governance and operational capacity in order to prevent future losses and, as a consequence, risk for the budget of St. Maarten. Now, why did this come? You have to ask yourself a question. Why are they doing this? Is this because of the disaster that we had in GB after the hurricane with the water tanks and the infrastructure? Is this because of the disaster going on at the airport that for the past 6 years we can't build back our airport yet? Is this because of the infrastructure of these roads that the country is suffering? Is it because of the hospital fiasco? Because all these things will fall back on government's budget when things go wrong, because those are government-owned companies. They can be liability companies, but they are government-owned as a shareholder, and when a loan is taken, the government guarantees it, because the government's borrowing capacity goes down because of those loans. That's what they got to tell you, so that you understand what's truly being said here. Because a lot of people read these country packages, but they don't understand it. And government for damn sure ain't gonna explain it to you. Because then you're going to start asking yourself the question, well, what kind of craziness is this? Naturally, I like how they close it off. It's not an objective to arrive at a decision to dispose of or partially sell off semi-public enterprise and government entities that serve a defined public interest. Really? Is that really true? Because they didn't say it will not happen, you know. It's not an objective to arrive. Now, that's the scary part. Why don't you say we will not sell government entities, irregardless to what shows on top? No, we are saying it's not the objective to reach there. So if we have to, we're going to reach there. If we have to, we're going to sell it. That's written here. So you see, we need to stop this stupidity, giving peace nonsense to people. They just tell them what it is. Tell them what it is. Because, again, this whole corporate governance that they're going to do at the airport, what about the other companies? Are they not going to be subject to the same? But at the airport, things went so strange that you had a holding company that you now suddenly bypass the holding company, create an asset company to put the assets in. Why didn't PGIAE put their assets by holding as they had to? Why was Brian Mingo allowed to play this game? And now you come with an asset company which can then So listen carefully, this asset company going to lease back the airport, the runway, and all those things, and any land they use to PGIAE. But the question is, who controls the asset company? That's going to be the question. Because that's what holding was there for, to protect the assets. But now in this corporate institution that you created down there, you created this separately. And the question is, why? It's a simple question. At the harbor they don't do it, TLM they don't do it, GB they don't do it. So why the airport? You see, if we would just simply make the decisions of corporate council binding, a lot of stupidity would stop. But because government doesn't want to give up control, we get this nonsense all the time. Hands off is a good thing. But hands off comes with consequences. Consequences that when the boards of people that we appoint, because we don't listen to corporate council, we just do what we want because it's friends and family or it's party members. We put people that shouldn't be in certain places in places. And then you tell them what you want them to do in that company. And then they go and pressure management for political gain for the parties, not the country. This is the problem. So don't come and say, well, how you going to do this and you do that when you know you ain't doing squat. Because there's too much of political mileage to be pushed in there. Again, we're talking about working together to achieve a category 1 airport, civil aviation. But then we know what to do. It's not difficult, people. Don't let nobody fool you. Oh, we're going to work with the kingdom. Sure, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Because if Maarten gets a black eye, the kingdom gets a black eye too. Curacao gets a black eye, the kingdom will get a black eye too. But it's simple. Civil aviation has to be an independent entity. It cannot be under the Ministry of Fiat. It has to be an independent entity, just like cadastre, just like SFV. They are independent ZBOs. That's what they got to do with civil aviation. They will have their board, but they report directly to the entities. You're going to have to pay people with proper documents to be in there, certified to sign off. And if you don't do that, you will never become category 1. So stop fooling people. And I have heard people talk about it, and some of them understand what it is, others have no clue what it is. But the bottom line was simple. You're going to have to do what needs to be done. And if we don't do that, it ain't going to happen. When you go from B4 to B9 in this whole restructuring of this public sector, they talk about the integrated, detailed review on proposals and development with a view to improve quality, effectiveness, implementation capacity of the government organization, which also includes effectiveness in ministerial staffs. Well, I don't know if they talk about the ministry, yes. Ministerial, those are all political people that they appoint up there. They put them into functions that they don't even know what a function means. They pay them big salaries, and basically nothing really happens. There have been a few cabinets where people did work. I'm sure there are a few cabinets up there that have good people in them. But again, majority of them should not be up there. Now, I agree that a plan of approach is being made, and this will review the present policies on which the organization is based and run, the HR aspects, the detailed investigation plan of approach, review of employment condition, the fringe benefits, the travel expenses, to ensure we spend what we can afford based on the economic times. I agree with that. I wholeheartedly support that if we don't have no money to travel, we shouldn't be traveling. We shouldn't be pretending, because nowadays you can attend a lot of meetings by Zoom. And yes, there are certain meetings where face-to-face is important. I agree, and you make exceptions for those. But if the rest is not relevant, then don't do it. And at least that's what they're looking for in this plan of approach. Also, the proper usage of employees and the halting abuse of wages will be looked in by means of surveys and discussions. I think there was a survey done already, a survey of Do you feel everything is going good? No, that service was a fiasco. A lot of people did not agree with the way things are going, and again, every minute you hear there's a wage issue. This one want more money, that one want better working conditions. Now, what I hope this survey will do is look into what the EU has done with, for example, a 4-day work week. There's a lot of discussion about it. I am still on the fence with the 4-day work week, but I think it's a good thing to look into it and see what benefits that brings along and what it can mean for the country. I think it's important. I don't know if that's the way to go eventually, but I think it's important we at least look into it and talk about it and see, okay, what does a 4-day work week really means for the civil servantry? Because it's happening in other countries. What about working from home? What does that mean? Less space to rent because you don't need more offices if people are going to be working from home. Certain functions allow you to work from home. So again, maybe 3 days office, 2 days at home, or 4 days office, 1 day at home, or 2 days office, 2 days at home. I don't know. I think it's something to look at, and let's see where it goes from there. But I think the best aspect that this plan will hopefully have is limiting the political influence of ministers and politicians on the organization, as now presently is a very serious matter. That's what they wrote there. I didn't say this, they said that. Ministers moving around staff seems to be a new norm. People are getting lost in the organization. People are frustrated in the organization. People don't know where to go anymore in the organization. These are things that we got to be very, very, very careful with. Now, when I look at the aspect of cost reduction, I scratch my head when it comes to housing, because we all know that a long time ago, we should have started building buildings to house the high councils, to house the justice wing, to house the tourism office. We keep talking about it, but we don't do nothing. There is money that we could have borrowed by APS or by SZV, just like how they put it into the hospitals and other things. They could have put it into office spaces, and we would have rented the space from them on a rent-to-purchase basis. And they would have gotten a good interest return on their monies, and government would have paid the rent as they have done with other entities, because they pay the other people outside. They don't owe them, they just pay them. It is this thing about because we believe we own SFV, or we believe we own APS, that we can do what we want. No, APS management got to take it to courts and done. And then the party is over. These are the type of things we need to start doing. But again, like I said, too much of things are not being done right. I already spoke about how to improve the corporate governance, because if this protocol is going to be adopted, it should be across the board for everybody and not just for some of us. Now I come to the theme most important to me, taxation. The objective here was to the reestablishment of a robust system of taxation with a broad basis, you hear it, broad basis, that contributes to a fairer distribution of income. So right now it's unfair. Factual. They are stating this as an objective. Encourages the economy and implementation and control by the Tax and Customs Administration. Realizing adequately structured tax services. These are the objectives. Now, to increase revenue and to make the system more robust and simple, an integrated, detailed investigation will be carried out on the financial system, including income tax. The following proposals will be considered, and here we go again. This is written, people. I ain't making this up. Broadening the tax base. Fair enough. Shifting from direct to indirect taxation and introduction of the VAT BTW at 12.5% in accordance with the proposals from the Fiscal Affairs Department of the IMF or the ABB, in accordance with the fiscal system for the Caribbean Netherlands. Now, I am at a complete loss. I was in Parliament when we discussed this, where everybody acknowledges that if we bring in a 12.5% VAT on the Dutch side, the business going to the French side. Everybody going to shop over there. What are you going to do? You're going to put customs by the borders? What are you going to do? Because You don't expect that the prices going up here with 12.5% and nobody, already they shop by Super U. You're going to just open a Pandora's box. Everybody gonna go over there and shop. Because it makes no sense what you're saying here. This makes absolutely no sense. What they want to do on the French side was an import duty of 8% so that both countries could have collected monies from everything coming in. We on this side, the dummy Rami team over there, decided, no, we're going to keep the turnover tax, and now we come with a VAT too. Because no place are they saying the turnover tax gone, you know. That ain't written no place. So you see, people, these are the problems that need to be addressed and addressed correctly. Measures aimed at substantial reduction of tax expenditure and contributions, transfers to third parties, limiting administrative interference, discretionary authority of both civil servants and administrations. This has to do in relation to the deductible items like a tax holiday. So they want to set the law on what it is, and the people know upfront if they're going to get a tax holiday, yes or no. They ain't that a civil servant going to sit down and decide. And I agree with that. Put it in the law, simplify it. When somebody applies for something, it's either they get it or they don't get it done. And then we move on. On the basis of the detailed investigation, because there's a lot of detailed investigations going on, and recommendations, proposals will be developed and implemented. Account will be taken of the international rules from, among others, the OECD, that's the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, that works to build better policies for better lives. And I wholeheartedly support that. But I hope in the simplification of the tax system, a few things happen. One, we are not going to tax pensions or seniors. That's finito. No pensions going to be taxed, no seniors going to be taxed. Two, a livable wage will be introduced of 3,500 guilders, as was basically said by the SER and the anti-poverty platform. That number's known. So anybody who earns 3,500 guilders or less will not be taxed. If you're going to simplify, then simplify that way. If you're not going to do that, then we got a problem from the start. Because all you're going to do is kill the small man again. Because you're putting a 12.5% VAT. What about the turnover tax? Is it gone? Yes or no? What about the import duties? Why not bring them in? Why pretend that it's not going to help the country? The French side wants to do it, which means that you have a level playing field. VAT, you don't have a level playing field because the French side is not going to do it. So what are we waiting on? Stop telling me about what the IMF is saying. Start thinking for yourself. Or you don't have that strategic view. Let's go over to another one. On the basis of the existing and additional studies, whether and how the tax office can be optimized and modernized in such a way that tax collections can be carried out efficiently and effectively, and will be determined. Based on the proposals, decision-making and implementations will take place. Again, seeing the current court case with bearing point and the monies needed to now be paid for the loss of that case, will government have enough funds to pay for this new tender that they are forcing through? Has the Netherlands released the monies for this program project? Because remember, this money was there, then suddenly Holland pulled back the money and said, no, we're going to put it in Coho, and then Coho died a natural death. So what happened to that 30 million? I ain't hear it come out yet. So where are we? Because we got to pay for most of these things. So again, all these quick wins about start collecting back taxes during one of the worst periods of time for this country. People came out of a recession. Businesses have not caught themselves. What are we talking about? Let's go after the back taxes. I don't understand. Seniors can't afford 3 meals a day, but we want to back tax them. Are you all serious or are you all just crazy? Because there's going to come a time people going to say, I can't take this more. And they're going to retaliate. And then what? And then what? You got a place to put them in jail anyway. Well, you give them an ankle bracelet. Great strategy. Again, there are a lot of things happening that shouldn't be happening. But again, like I said, only in St. Maarten is this right now possible. The last theme is the financial sector. Now, in the financial sector, I realized that there are three objectives. Establishing a stable financial sector that is fully able to fulfill its role in support of the real economy. Establishing an appropriate means of regulating the financial sector with adequate supervision and governance of compliance. Adequate supervision and governance of compliance. Establishing a watchdog that is able to respond effectively and timely in the event of problems with financial businesses. Financial business people are insurance companies and banks, all right? Lending institutions. All of these three objectives have to be done by the Central Bank of Curaçao and Sint Maarten. I don't understand right now what kind of integrated and detailed investigation of the financial sector needs to be carried out by an external party, because it hasn't happened up to today. While we talk about an integrated investigation slash product from the IMF of 12.5% in the VAT, the central bank knows full well this cannot work. They know that. They are the ones that have told us some of these things can't work. Yet, we have it in here as a condition. We talk about, again, changing legislations. My question is, Hero Bank happened a long time ago. Inya started in 2014. Up until today, you want to tell me the central bank did not put proper legislation in place? Up until today, people can't open bank accounts in St. Maarten. And when you ask the central bank, they tell you, no, that's not our task. Every bank has a right to do this, or every bank has a right to do that. But you're not protecting the people of the country. When you ask them to dollarize, they tell you that's no good, because they need to safeguard their job. When you hear them in Kyoto start talking about, oh, they're going to use the gold, you hear people jump up and say, oh, you can't use the gold, because that's what the central bank don't own nothing. The countries own it. The two countries, Curaçao and Sint Maarten, they own that gold, not the central bank. The central bank is an institution that, if need be, Sint Maarten should secede from. Take their shares, get a monitoring authority in place under the Dutch Central Bank for the next 10 years, use professionals we have walking around here that are quite capable of doing that. One of them even came in the past. He was the deputy director of the central bank. He became the governor in Sint Maarten. So we have qualified people. Stop shooting yourself in the foot because somebody else said so. We got to learn to start thinking for ourselves. We have to learn to put Sint Maarten first and the rest second. And as long as we don't do that, we're going to have a problem. But like I said, the governance of the central bank is going to be reinforced in accordance with international best practices, including the separation of the various tasks within the CBS. Allowing the CBS to become totally independent as proposed by the IMF is not the way to go for us when we would like to dollarize and secede from the Central Bank of Curaçao and Sint Maarten. That's our opinion. Now, what are we sharing for elections? Huh? What's going on for elections? Because, every week I get a little dig in there. It is clear now that all parties, let me not say all parties. One party for sure is ready to rock and roll. They put out their list of candidates. They seem to be well funded. So let the show start. Spin doctors are on already and a lot of things going on. Candidates are going to be attacked. I'm sure I'm going to be attacked. It's just a matter of time. But again, once you're ready for it, hey, we know where we're going. I think, that, how do I say? Some parties still believe what's going to happen ain't going to happen. But that's the fun of politics. When you see people year in, year out do the same thing, and you believe they ain't going to do it this time around. We'll see. I hope this election, though, I really hope this election will be focusing on various issues we are struggling with, like poverty, hunger relief, taxation, economic reform, animal abuse, justice and its various human rights violations, our educational system, our failing healthcare funds and struggling hospital, the many fraudulent tenders that have now cost the government millions unnecessarily, our disability to develop our agriculture, fisheries, and animal human husbandry sector, a disastrous waste management and failing road network, our inability to properly handle our loans, and the consequences of such, just to name some of them. With the hope that because we had 4 years of not so good government, a larger population will come out and vote to show their discontent. It would be great to see some 15 to 16,000 people come out at the polls and cast their votes. While some will ask for money or something else for their vote, the majority will not, and they will ensure that we get the government we truly deserve. I hope this election that happens. Coalition problems are brewing, and many are wondering why now. Well, that's simple. Something needs to happen because they have to start blaming each other. They're up in the end, they're going to have to start blaming each other for what went wrong. You can't blame Sarah, you can't blame Melissa, you can't blame Chris and them for, oh, this went wrong in the country. No, you had it. You always had it. You never brought legislation to change anything constitutionally. Remember when I had asked for you to review this nonsensical, faulty constitution that says if somebody is still in appeal, he is suspended? And then one of them last night said that was God sent for him to come in and save this country. I think that idiot has no clue what he was talking about. But hey, that's for the campaign trail. I think we're going to see what's going to happen in the next few weeks. I believe the government will be sent home very soon. And others are saying, no, nothing will happen. But again, we'll see. Again, like I said, the marketplace. While I wholeheartedly support the rebuilding of the marketplace and having a better place for people to sell their products, this was supposed to start in May, then in July. Now they have decided to start it October 1st. And the hurtful part there then is that October, November, December, January, 4 months, 3 of which are high season, are lost because those people have no place because the place is being rebuilt. So let me make a suggestion to the genius that did this. Maybe you should give all those vendors a stall at the harbor so that when the passengers coming back, at least they can sell their products to the passengers. Just like how the passengers would have had a free walk in here, give them an opportunity to make a decent buck instead of all complaining that they are speaking out for what they believe in. Everybody have a right to speak. Everybody got their little podcasts and their little shows. And you don't have to blame people or call out people for nonsense because they're speaking out for their livelihood. Because others do the same. The government, though, needs to carefully pay attention to what's happening in Beacon Hill. While the building has not been built, a permit was given for 12 one-bedroom apartments. At present, they are selling 6 two-bedroom apartments. And when this was sent to the Ministry of Romy, I cannot believe that the minister would put out a press release that appeared on the front page because the Daily Herald knew exactly what they were doing with that article. Oh, it's not our fault and oh, we can't do nothing. How you mean you can't do nothing? You are seeing a fraudulent something happening. You couldn't call your colleague ministers and say, hey, look into this matter here. Check out his business license. See what this idiot is doing here. Selling 2-bedroom condos when he doesn't have that right. Because you know what that is? That's a scam. And you know who will get a bad name? Sint Maarten. I mean, come on, man. You can't be that stupid. I know I call it stupidity. But Jesus, man, you prove me right every day. To put out such an article. I don't. Let me just move on because I have never seen nonsense like this. Again, I hope that we do what's right for this country, and we legalize weed, and we create a powerful new economic pillar. Because the pillar we have right now, the tourism pillar right now, no matter how much we tweak it and fix it, it cannot make the people of this country wealthy. A handful are wealthy. A handful got a contracts. But that's not the people. That's a handful. And we need to create a system where we can share the wealth better. And weed is one. And we have much more that we will be presenting to you as we move along. Because economic diversification is not a premise. It's a necessity. We got to do it now. Not next year, not 2 years from now, not 3 years from now. We got to do it now. And if this government can't do it, step aside, because we coming to do it for you. Once and for all, man. We got to do what we got to do, man. I'm sick and tired of always hearing all kind of Nancy stories and Nancy excuses. But what I did not like was what I read on the front page today of the newspaper. And that basically said, where is the paper? Custom workers send list of demands to Justice Minister. And when I read it, here we go again. They are totally upset because the department isn't functioning, because people have been suspended, and up until this day, that can be fixed. You can't send home people and just leave it open. This seems to be the norm in this government. Because in Vromi, they did the same thing with Lewis Brown. They sent him home. The man win the case. His dismissal was illegal. The judge said so. He won everything. This man had to go to court now to get paid because he refused to pay him. This is what you're dealing with in here. The insubordination, the egos of certain people are crazy. But the same happened in justice now. Because now they're telling the people, no, that one is suspended, this one disappeared. One of the legal minds there that was keeping the department afloat is now suspended or has disappeared. He ain't working for months. And the customs agents are not getting paid. They don't have tools to work, so they can't do their job. Common story. It used to be the police, it was this, then they come and say, oh, we're going to sign off all the function books, the placement letters, salary increases, but nobody get paid yet. And the money needed is about 30 million. So where do we go from here? What does this mean now with customs? Because this border point agreement that was signed, Coast Guard, customs and all that with the Dutch. What's happening here? So we sign an agreement and we don't fix the system inside, and then we wonder why the Dutch tell us, so they need serious bezig. We ain't seriously. We ain't serious, we ain't doing what we have to do. Because that's what sound like. Elections gonna be in November, people. Don't let nobody fool you with that one. In the Netherlands, the fights have started right now between the unions and the businesses, where the unions are demanding that any new CLA agreements, there will be a discussion with a minimum increase, which will be the inflation cost of the country during the period in question moving forward. This is going to be very interesting because this can be detrimental to Sint Maarten, because our cost of living, and that's a crazy something. But the inflation cost is a different something, and it's not necessarily a cost of living. Your inflation cost could be 10%, while your cost of living is 3%. Now they're asking that the inflation cost is the minimum increase, and not cost of living. And that's a different story, because that can have a very, very serious effect moving forward. We have decided to take bread out of the mouths of a lot of people. I spoke about that already. I hope that they don't do the vending building come October 1st, or if they do it, put the people in the harbor, let them make some serious money so we can move forward. But I want to give you all some thoughts. Hunger in this country is a very serious problem, and the seniors are really suffering. I know that I talk about the seniors because I eventually soon will become a senior too. But I had a mother and father, and I am proud. You know what I'm saying? I am proud that they didn't have to go through this craziness going on in this country today, where they can't eat once a day, otherwise they can't pay GB, or they can't do this, or they can't do that. This is sad. we are inducing poverty on our seniors because we don't care. I don't care how you turn it and twist it now. My opinion is you all don't care that seniors have to suffer. We have children go to school every morning hungry. I can tell you from the organization I am coming from, we are going to look at 2 schools, try to get food in there. Because government can't even build the schools, more or less feed the children there. Government don't give the teachers what they need to be able to teach the children. But we wonder why we have the communities that we have. We wonder why children follow to school and behave the way they behave. But let me leave you with some food for thought, and maybe you can derive your own conclusion on what I'm going to tell you now. It's a known fact, because I spoke about this, I think last week, or 2 weeks ago, and I saw a newspaper article. It was based on a newspaper article. The car rental companies established in St. Maarten purchase the minimum amount of number plates their licenses are granted for and supplement their fleet of cars with cars that carry French number plates from the French side of the island. Now, the government recently announced that they will review, withdraw the licenses or the plates in the licenses that were granted to companies if they don't use them because that's a lack of income. Well, it can have the following consequences. The existing car rental companies will simply continue anyway with, if they had 100 plates and they got 50 Dutch number plates and you take away those 50, that's okay for them. They're going to still continue using the French number plates. As long as you don't have a legislation in place that French number plates cannot be rented on the Dutch side, they're going to continue. So you're just making a damn fool out of yourself when you speak this way. Smaller companies that have not been able to meet the quota of 25, because they got 10 now, you're going to take away the other 15 from them so they can't grow no more. You're limiting your own people. You're not working in their interests. You're not helping them. You're not helping the economy. And you're taking away income from government. Or you're planning to give out a bunch of licenses because elections are due. Same thing you wanted to do with the taxis and buses. Because every year we have an election. TIAT seems to have a lifting of moratoriums and a lifting of this and an adjustment. This is crazy. This is crazy. And you know what has killed me? When you speak to them, they tell you, no, but I'm running. It's not you, it's the party. It's the party. That's who it's about. And you know, the razzle and dazzle is, we're going to give you this, we're going to give you that, we're going to give you this, we're going to give you that. I even hear they were promising contracts in TLM. I know my boy over there, he don't play that game. But I can tell you, look out, because they got a $300,000 contract, they're going to come and ask you for it just now. Don't worry, it's coming. But government will collect even less revenue. The small man is going to get screwed once again. But let me give an alternative. Control the current car rental companies on the Dutch side of St. Maarten, ensuring that all the cars used and rented on Dutch St. Maarten actually carry Dutch side number plates. If somebody wants to rent a car on the French side, I agree with that. Wholeheartedly, I agree with this. And yes, Mariana, it has been going on for years. But now, suddenly, they want to pull in the plates from the companies who are using it. But the smaller companies going to get mashed up first because they can't compete with the companies with the French number plates because that plate is paid for once a lifetime. Not like here on the Dutch side, every year you're paying plate. Insurance companies will make more money because all cars got to be insured on the Dutch side. So if you run out of cars on the Dutch side, you're going to have to start shuttling your people to the French side. That's what it means. You can shuttle them, or you can tell you can't do that. Free movement of people and goods. If that's what it is. But you know just as good as me that when that hustle starts, people are going to start looking for car rentals and ask questions because they are renting a car on the Dutch side and not the French side. Because when they pick up the car on the French side, the rules and regulations are different over there. than on the Dutch side. So again, I think the government tax income will increase because not only will they get monies through TOT, but also the insurance companies, their revenues will increase, their profit margins will increase, so government's profit income will increase. Worst case scenario would be that the car rental companies have less cars on the road and the roads become less congested and taxi drivers earn more. This is your call to make, Minister. But I want the people of St. Maarten to know the pros and cons so we don't just go throwing sand in their eyes. Let them know what it is. The empowerment of our people is the fundamental building block of the Now Party. That's what we stand for. The Now Party wants to provide the necessary support so that our people can take their rightful place in this country. And to do that, I need to inform you of what's truly happening in this country. We can become rich in our own country. You know. We can. We need to be given a fair opportunity. A lot of people say, oh, Babangampa, you are a rich man. Why? Because I worked 35 years hard all my life. And I was able to build my house. That's why I'm a rich man. I inherited land that my forefathers bought from the Van Roermans and them. They didn't get it as a handout. They bought it. The deeds are there at Cadastre. But some people say, oh, they thief it. That's because those idiots can't read. Reading is also something you have to learn. But just remember, when you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. And this government has done that consistently. I want to wish all of you a great week ahead. A lot of action coming for sure, they said. Action is going to be around in the arena. Please share my podcast. Please also like and subscribe to my YouTube page. And until next week, Monday, Bunks is out. Have a wonderful week. Take care of yourself.